Hello. This video was taken from a webinar recently conducted for Orientation to College Teaching. In this section, Megan Shannon, who is our Manager of Academic Integrity, will give you a high-level overview of the academic integrity world. She'll discuss situations, policies, give you some guidance and some resources. So have a listen and be sure that you can reach Megan if you have any other questions. So on that note, I'm very happy to welcome Megan Shannon, who is our Manager of Academic Integrity. And so basically we've asked Megan to come in here and just give us some points on the whole academic integrity piece. We're teaching students, and I read somewhere on an article that students want to graduate and there are two things that get in their way: the teacher and assessments and tests. They just want to get to the end of the line with their diploma or their degree. So needless to say, there are some things that that we need to share with you in the world of academic integrity. So we've invited Megan to come join us. We've got some slides that we can share, and I guess Megan, you're remotely. If you just want to tell me to advance slides when you're ready, I will be happy to do so. And welcome to our webinar.
Thank you so much. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay, I'm unmuted successfully. And there have been a couple calls these last few weeks where I've been talking away to a mute phone. So thank you. So thank you guys for having me. Good evening and welcome to Fanshawe if you're new. Welcome to Fanshawe Online if that's new to you as well. What I would like to do is give you a brief overview of how academic integrity is considered and how it operates, what everybody's thinking of it, just kind of a general where we're at and what we're dealing with and what we hope to get to. So I want to give you an overview of, I want to identify the policy for you and let you know how it works, how it applies to students, how it applies to you, how you can make use of it, and then I'd like to show you in detail, or like bulleted detail anyways, the resources that we're making available to students. If you want to refer students to these services in order to prevent offenses or prevent reoffending. But the big key takeaway for you guys for tonight, I want you to know what assistance is available to you. So we'll do that. We'll wrap up with that, but I'll try to keep an eye on chat, and I hope to leave some time for your questions as well. So let's get started. So Eric, thank you for your for ushering us through this for me. So just to give you a general start, I give this slide, I use this slide when I'm talking to faculty, but also to students. So everybody's receiving the same baseline message. So when we're talking about, if you're ever discussing or thinking about a person who has integrity, you're likely thinking about the characteristics, the character qualities, the attributes that that person has, right? This is pretty basic and most people have a general understanding of this, but someone who has integrity is generally truthful and accountable, they're honest and trustworthy, they're responsible, and they generally have a strong sense of moral and ethical principles. So when we're talking about academic integrity, we're literally just applying those character qualities, those traits and attributes in the academic setting. These are attributes and behaviors and actions that are expected between, faculty and admin. It's what we expect of each other. It's what we expect of our students. And ultimately, this is the sustainability picture. It's what employers and recruiters are going to expect of our graduates. So you can see this becoming, much more big picture. They need to behave a certain way, demonstrate understanding of skills and knowledge in the classroom, even the online classroom, and eventually, academic integrity will become professional integrity. So Eric, if you could send us to the next slide. Okay, and why it's important. So these 3 bullet points are coming right out of our policy. They work from the top down, but they also work from the bottom up. So when it comes to ensuring fairness in the education that our students pursue, in the work that they complete, and the grades that they earn, this is pretty standard. One of the points I want to make is that grades are earned. Yes, students pay tuition. International students do pay a higher rate of tuition. Domestic students and their families have been paying into the tax system. But the grades are not just obtained or bought. They're certainly not obtained dishonestly. The grades are earned, and the merit of the work will result in the grades. And when it comes to fairness, one thing I really try to point out to faculty, but also to students, is that if a student in a class is obtaining or attempting to obtain grades unfairly, it's not fair to the rest of the students in the class who are doing the work, right? They could be, excuse me, putting in a reasonable amount of effort and obtaining really solid, possibly, average or just higher than average marks, but for someone to not do the work, not demonstrate that they actually have those skills and that knowledge, and to be getting higher marks isn't necessarily fair to the students engaged in participating. So really simple bullet point. The next one, building on that, once the grades are earned, students progress through programs and then they graduate with degrees, diplomas, and certificates. So if someone has obtained those grades fairly and gotten the degree or the diploma or a graduate certificate, they'll have earned that, and it protects the value. There are concerns about people getting into the workplace with certifications or accreditation that were possibly falsely obtained or not obtained to the standard that employers and recruiters expect. So we're really trying to simultaneously, especially because we're online right now, we're trying to protect the students' terms. We want them to continue moving through the program despite the circumstances, but we're also trying to protect the integrity of the academics that we offer. So the Academic Integrity Office serves 2 purposes, right? We're trying to prevent offenses and work with students to prevent reoffending, but we're also really trying to protect the integrity of the academics that we offer. So we want, the evaluations and assessments to be meaningful. We want them to demonstrate the students' mastery of concepts, and we want them to get through the programs and get out into the workforce, the workplace, and shine. And then lastly, the last bullet point, it reinforces Fanshawe's reputation. So when I mentioned, sorry, that's my coworker. This is twice. Sorry, guys. So it reinforces Fanshawe's reputation. So talking about sustainability, we want our students and our graduates and our alumni, the reputation of our faculty, for everybody to shine with integrity. So that is what the policy is based on. So Eric, if you could show the next slide, please. Perfect. So this is a very condensed version of our academic integrity policy, policy A136 in the college policy manual. And it basically does these 3 things. It's a 15-page document. The majority of the document are procedures. But what it's doing is identifying what the actions and behaviors are that the college considers to be academic offenses. So we have a list of 11, and I'll walk you through those in a moment. And then it describes the penalties that are to apply to offenses. There is a range based on frequency of occurrence, severity of the offense, students' prior penalty history, and then other variables like the grade weight and importance of an assessment, and any other surrounding circumstances. It gives a range of penalties that could apply, which is important. It does give faculty options. It also involves some decision making, but that's a key component. And then lastly, the bulk of that document, that policy, details the administrative process. So everything that should happen from the time an offense is suspected and you shift from reasonable doubt to reasonable grounds, and then we have a confirmed offense. And what we do next, how we report it, how we discuss it with the student, who signs off on what, where the form goes, all of that is detailed in the policy. And if you ever have questions about anything that comes up policy related, how to apply it, how to work with it, what certain things mean, please, by all means, feel free to email anytime. So next slide, please. Okay, so here are your list of 11. These are the academic offenses. They are not listed in any particular order, although ironically, it does just happens to be that plagiarism is the most frequently occurring offense that we see reported. There are 4 categories of plagiarism. So neglect or failure to cite, right? Taking credit for work that isn't yours, submitting another student's or person's work as your own, and then what we refer to as double or multiple submission. So like if a student had to prepare a paper or an assignment in a course that they previously took, and they either didn't modify it or modified it just slightly and submitted it for another course. Submitting the same paper twice doesn't count. It can't be marked twice in 2 different courses for 2 different rubrics, that kind of thing. So that does happen. The next one, acting to assist or facilitate. There are a number of sites online with the Copyright Office. We call them course content sharing sites. So places like StuDocu and Course Hero and StudyBuddy. They're sites that look very friendly. They look like social media sites, and they bill themselves as, peer tutoring sites and that kind of thing. But what they're ultimately doing is providing a platform through which students can share previously submitted assignments. And based on paid subscription or number of documents uploaded, generally they have to upload 3 in order to retrieve 1. They'll strip the names and then submit them as their own. So we are actively trying to take down content from these sites, but we do see a number of students who post with the intention of generating revenue, and that is acting to assist or facilitate. We have just finished exams or final tests, and we did have a number of cases where students using online tools and apps and whatnot were helping each other cheat on tests and exams. It does happen. Even though we do have a number of tools in place, and I'll go over those. So acting to assist or facilitate does happen. Misrepresenting reasons for missed evaluation. Generally, we'll see students provide a falsified doctor's note or something like that. Allowing another person to complete the student's academic work, excluding test quizzes and exams. So that applies specifically to the assignments, written evaluations, discussion posts, research papers, lab reports, stuff like that. Copies from another person during a quiz, test, or exam. This happens in person and online. Participating in activities in person or electronically that are not permitted in the preparation or completion of academic work. This one covers a lot. What would be considered an activity? What happens before the academic work is submitted? What happens if it's being completed live, like an online test? So that can kind of buddy up with assisting or facilitating an offense. This one is broadly applied, and it's intended to be flexible. All of these offenses, the wording, I get a lot of questions. People say, oh, these are really vague, or they sound really repetitive. But if you look at the wording, it's intended to give some flexibility to faculty for application. And it's intended to apply regardless of the course, regardless of the program or school or campus or format. Using materials, resources, or technology not permitted in completion of academic work. That we see a lot with, consulting websites that perhaps shouldn't be consulted when putting something together. And then we have possessing or using materials, resources, and technology that are not permitted in a quiz, test, or exam. So making use of cheat sheets or having something written on a water bottle and bringing it into a test. Making use of Facebook quote-unquote study groups or certain apps in order to cheat on a test. That does happen. Improperly obtaining any evaluation prior to the date and time of a scheduled evaluation. This comes up every once in a while, but it isn't often what people think. Historically, we've all heard stories of students who've broken into professors' offices to get a copy of the exam and then distribute it. But what we've seen is that students may take photos of portions of a previous term's exams and then share them via social media. So that, excuse me, that qualifies as obtaining an evaluation and distributing. Altering or falsifying academic records in any way or submit false documentation for academic purposes. This tends to come up mostly with regards to admission. If people are coming from other provinces or other countries, we're trying to verify that they have credentials, whether they're language credentials or if they're applying for external credits, that they actually have taken courses that are equivalent. We also see this sometimes with students doing apprenticeships or co-ops. We want to make sure that the mentor or the person facilitating the co-op or apprenticeship is actually the person signing off. And then lastly, allowing another person to take a quiz, test, or exam in that student's place. We are making use of technology called Respondus Monitor, which is software that uses a webcam to record a student while they're taking the test. And they have to hold up their student card, and it does happen where someone is taking the test who is not the student. This also happens in person where someone will think they won't be detected and they'll try to write the exam or test in the student's place. So those are your 11. I'm probably talking too much, but I think it's important to give you kind of examples of what has happened, what to watch out for. But the caveat as far as what to watch out for, I would encourage you to teach and mark in order to teach and mark. Don't mark in order to find or uncover offenses. If they happen, we will deal with them. We'll process the offenses. We'll try to get the students back on the right path. We'll do that. But if you're using things like Turnitin or Respondus Monitor, anything like that, we're using those tools in an effort to deter offenses. We're not trying to police and catch them. So I hope that's clear and makes sense. But if we could go to the next slide. Okay, so here, this image, I'm sorry that it's a little grainy. This is what you'll see if you have the paper copy of the form in hand or if you're looking at the digital copy. So I wanted to show you this chart because this is what you'll likely be referring to. So on that left-hand side column, those are your academic offenses. Those are the list of 11, and you've got those 4 bullet points at the top under plagiarism. On that right-hand side, you'll have your penalty options, and this coding correlates to what those options are. So W means warning. If you're looking at this chart, the first 3 offenses, plagiarism, acting to assist or facilitate, or misrepresenting reasons, those are, a warning could be issued if any of those offenses happen, if it's the student's first offense. Right now, because we are online, and it is difficult to go from suspicion to doubt to reasonable grounds to confirmed with regards to the online test. So right now we are extending warnings to some offenses that happen due to online tests and exams. So warning is an option if it's appropriate. And then you have your penalties. The 3 in the middle there, redo work, mark as 0, and then fail course. those are more common. The penalties are intended to escalate based on frequency and severity. So if a student's been issued a warning, you may give them a chance to redo the work the next time, say, a plagiarism case comes up, and then, you know, assign and deduct marks as appropriate. Or depending on the extent of the plagiarism, and because they've already had a warning, you may proceed to a mark of 0. And this could be mark of 0 on portions of a compromised test or portions of an assignment where you can't give marks because of the plagiarism or because they've submitted someone else's report as their own. Fail course does need the sign off of your program manager, and then we have suspension and expulsion. So students have essentially, I want to say 4 chances, but it doesn't always work out that way. So generally, first offense, if it's not severe, you'll get a warning will be issued, and then the penalties are intended to increase if offenses continue to happen. So you would progress from warning to mark of 0. They would be then at risk of failing the course should an offense happen again. And then we see suspension and expulsion. We're trying to apply this policy and read this policy through a learning opportunities lens. We want, you know, a warning to act as a courtesy. We're cautioning them that certain actions and behaviors are not appropriate and won't be tolerated. My office is then picking up with the form and following up with the student and trying to connect them to services and supports and resources and staff in the library and in the learning center, perhaps accessibility and counseling. But we're really trying to prevent reoffending. So you'll see you have ranges for each of the offenses, and they are to be applied at your discretion. These are your courses that you're teaching. These are the assignments that you've put together and that you're facilitating and marking. So if you ever need to consult, you want to talk to someone and use them as a sounding board and which offense best applies, because we do have cases where we'll see, you know, we could be dealing with 4 potential offenses in any one instance. So we want to apply the offense that is most appropriate, and then we want to make sure we're applying a warning or penalty if and when it's most appropriate. So that's how the penalties work. Next slide, please, Eric.
Okay, we've got about 5 more minutes, so I'm going to ask you
Okay.
to go through them.
So with regards to the academic offense form, this is what the paper copy looks like. It's also what the digital copy looks like. I believe Eric is going to send out the digital copy with the slides. Perfect. The one point I'm going to make is that there are 5 sections to the slide. The first is student and course information, and then you see the penalty history from at the bottom of A. Section B is information about the offense and details, and then you're either going to do section C for a warning or D for a penalty. And then you sign off on the bottom, get your academic manager to sign off if they need to, if the student has 1 or more penalties documented. But there are 5 sections, you're only ever going to fill out 4. So A, B, C, E, or A, B, D, E. And any questions about the form, if you want someone to walk through the form with you over the phone, I'm more than happy to do that. Next slide. Okay, and this is the back of the form. So this is where that chart's coming from, and it's the second page of the PDF. So you can type into the fields on the digital PDF, save it to your computer, and then you'll forward it on to your program manager, and then they'll forward it on to me in the registrars. So there are a number of initiatives for students. Every student has to complete an academic integrity online module. It's about 30 minutes. It goes through the policy. It has them work through possible offenses and what are the consequences, how to avoid them, connects them with my office, the Ombuds, library, and learning center. They do a quiz so that we can track that they've completed it. So every student should have a basic understanding of what the expectations are here at the college. Academic integrity information sessions, APA workshops, and about a dozen other workshops are run, and we're running them online through the library and the learning center. The staff in the Library and Learning Center are also available to do virtual appointments with the students, whether it's through Zoom, over the phone, or chat or email. I do follow up and refer every student with an offense. There is information on the Academic Integrity website for both students and faculty, and the appeal process is open to students. They do need reasonable grounds in order to pursue an appeal, but that is there essentially to ensure fairness and appropriate policy application. So next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so support for you. If you need assistance with investigating or confirming academic offenses, completing the form, if you want a second pair of eyes for Turnitin results, or the FOL data that's captured from online tests, please let me know. I'm more than happy to assist with anything like that. What I will say about Turnitin is it is not necessarily a plagiarism checker. What it is doing is looking at the paper that was submitted, and it's detecting how similar that paper potentially is to the other papers in Turnitin's repertoire in their database and to what it can access through what is publicly accessible online. So the percentage that comes up is how potentially similar one paper is to whatever else it's detected. So that percentage is not, you know, a suggested grade for the paper. It doesn't necessarily mean that 42% of the paper has been plagiarized. It's telling you this paper is potentially 42% similar to something else. So please keep that in mind. I would never actually tell someone how to teach, how to instruct, how to put assignments and evaluations together, but I am so available to consult. And I hope to provide you with the resources and the supports that you need. So if you're looking on the website, there's more content coming for summer 20. We're just trying to get through the end of winter 20 right now. But if there are resources that you need or want, and they're not on the website, please let me know and I'll develop them. If you want consult or advice or assistance in any way, please email. And again, the Academic Integrity Office website, there's content up there for faculty as well. And then next slide, which I think is the last slide, the takeaways. So please be as specific as possible in your instructions. If something is group work, say it. If it's to be completed individually and independently, mention that. If you're using Turnitin, we've discussed that, originality and similarity versus marking software. Providing instructions for tests and exams. Now that we're online, this is even more important. Tests are not group work. The expectations are that the students will complete them individually and independently so they can demonstrate their knowledge of the course content. The marks aren't given to groups, they're given to individuals. So if a test is closed book, let them know, what materials are permitted and are not. Calculator, yes. A calculator on an iPhone with other apps, possibly not. If something is open book, state specifically what that means, right? Does that mean Google and any other websites? Does it mean the textbook only? Does it mean that they can be chatting with other students via apps and phones? And then my office oversees the copyright office. So one thing I wanted to say was the students are going to look to you and your course materials as templates. So if you're, citing images and resources that you use in their slides, they'll likely follow suit. So if you need any assistance with copyright, please let me know, and I'll pass that along to the Copyright Services Officer. And the one takeaway, I'm sorry to ramble on, my email address is here. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Email right now is especially the easiest way to reach me. I'm in front of it majority of the day, usually on by 7 or 8 and wrapping up as late as I need to. So please feel free to email if you have a question. Even if it's a simple thing, let's just get you the clarity that you need. Please don't hesitate. So thank you.